internet, my name is Lave and I watched Pet Sematary, which is the latest Stephen King adaptation, which I haven't read, and I also haven't seen the original 1989 movie either. The only thing I had seen in the build-up to this was the trailer, which does give away quite a lot of the plot, and I normally say if it's in the trailer then it's fair game for me to talk about it, but I understand for those who want to go in completely blind, I will keep this review spoiler free. When I talk about stuff that's in the trailer, I will give you some sort of visual warning. So let's get on with this. So this one follows the Creed family, who have relocated from Boston to a rural town in America so the mum and dad can get away from the hustle and bustle of city life and spend more time with their daughter and son and cat. Unbeknownst to them, in the woods behind their house lies a patch of land which has this uncanny ability to bring back the dead, only when they come back, something's not quite right. So I've said it before and I'm going to say it again, I'm not a fan of the horror genre, especially horror films that follow certain tropes and formulas, and Pet Sematary is one of those films. I think in the first act it starts off as you'd expect, as you meet the family and get to know them. That's a given. I mean, Jordan Peele's Us did the same thing recently. It just did it in a much better way in my opinion, and there are certain parallels that you can make between this and Us. I mean, the mum in both films have something from their past which has traumatized them and it still haunts them, but the difference is the way that they approach it. I mean, in Us it's told in a linear way and the suspense and mystery is built up over time. In this one you get flashbacks and scenes of clunky exposition which tell you what's happening, what's haunted her in the past. But the trope that I hate the most, which Pet Sematary hugely relies on, is the jump scare. One at the beginning of the film is a nice reference to one of the first ever jump scares in Cat People, but I just get really bored of them. I don't know what it is. I can see them coming a mile away and I just start counting how many they are in these types of films, and I lost count at about 10 in the first 45 minutes to an hour. It just really bores me, those jump scares. I just think it's kind of cheap thrills. Whilst I'm referencing other films, Pet Sematary is doing it too, obviously tipping its hat to Stanley Kubrick's adaptation of Stephen King's other novel, The Shining, starting in virtually the same way with a bird's eye view of the countryside and the family travelling to their new home in their car. There's even a couple of shots of blood dripping down and through walls, and a couple of other winks and references to other Stephen King adaptations, and I also think that it's referencing some David Cronenberg imagery with some body horror images. I do praise the film for not just going all out CGI with it, because when they do use CGI, some of it is pretty terrible. There's a really pivotal scene in the film and it's so obviously green screen. I think I could have done a better job. The cinematography is good in the scenes set in daylight and does manage to give the forest and woodlands an intimidating presence. The nighttime shots have that false moon with a blue or green backlight feel to them, which feels very stagey, and I'd be interested to know how much of the budget actually went on fog machines and dry ice machines, because if it's a nighttime shot you can guarantee there's a low level lying level of fog that they're walking through. It just had that kind of ghost amusement park theme ride feel to it. It didn't look natural to me. Whenever I think of good films that really evoke that kind of primal fear of the forest, I always think of It Comes at Night, because I think it does it so much better, just using kind of one natural light source, which is the hand torch that they're using, and they could have done the same thing in this. The nighttime scenes did have that artificial look to them. So let's talk about the cast for a second, because it has got some talent there. I mean, Jason Clarke is one of those actors who quite often pops up in bad films, but he's good in those bad films, and I think that is the case here. He has got something interesting to him, juxtaposed against his wife, who is obviously haunted by this thing. He's a skeptic and a doctor and an atheist and doesn't believe in all of that stuff, and I just wish it could have explored that just a little bit more. You've also got John Lithgow, who's playing their neighbour as Judd. He's good in everything. The problem is I think the cast are all working with a really bad script, and the one who falls foul most of it is the little girl actress. I mean, she has to work with lines like, "Daddy, why don't dogs and cats live as long as humans?" "Metabolism, sweetie." "Okay, but is heaven and hell real?" "Nah, heaven's not real, the afterlife's not real. I hope that doesn't come back to bite me in the ass later." "Okay, I love you, Daddy. The funny thing is, I'm not really exaggerating all that much. That is pretty much some of the dialogue in the film, and I am giving the little girl a hard time. I mean, that's 2 reviews in a row. I think the little girl in this has a much harder job than the little girl in Dumbo did, but before I continue, this is where I'm going to start venturing into the trailer spoilers, so that's your warning. If you don't want anything ruined for you, then you should stop watching now. So yeah, as I say, giving the little girl a hard time, but her performance does get much better when she gets brought back from the dead, and she's like quite creepy, got this really wonky eye and all that. But still, when she starts getting like really crazy, I just found a lot of it kind of like unintentionally funny. There's a bit where she pops up from behind this bed and I was laughing, and it absolutely wasn't intending it for me to laugh. I just thought it was hilarious. It's like... And that's the unfortunate thing, for me at least. When the film gets into its third act, I found a lot of the horror sequences unintentionally funny. And there's quite a few moments in the build up to it with some dream and nightmare sequences, which are shot pretty well, but they have this really corny voiceover effect with the dead kind of communicating with the live people, saying stuff like, "The ground is sour," and "Your destruction is coming." Oh, okay then. Because the film hadn't really grabbed me, I started thinking about other things that didn't really make sense and little plot holes. For example, early on in the film, when the family first get to the house, Ellie runs off outside and is playing in the pet cemetery when she first meets Judd, John Lithgow's character, and the mum realises that she's gone and it isn't in the house. She's like, "Ellie, dinner's ready. Ellie, where are you?" So she goes off to look for her. She's gone for quite a long time. And I was like, haven't they got a son as well? Like, who's looking after the son? Because it doesn't establish if he's in the house or at play school or whatever. The dad is definitely at work. So, yeah, they forget about the son, which, yeah, all right, bad parenting. And another question I had was that the film does establish that certain townsfolk know about this thing, like Judd knows all about this stuff, but it doesn't really establish if the rest of the town are aware of it. I'm not sure. I know that there are a bunch of kids that bury their pets on the outskirts of this thing, so they obviously know about it, but are they actively keeping it a secret? Like, little questions like that just I was thinking about, and when I wasn't being scared. So that's my thoughts on Pet Sematary, and pause the video if you want to take a closer look at my enjoyment tracker now. Like I say, I'm not a fan of the horror genre, and I hope the reasons why I didn't like this particular film explains why. I get that a lot of people do like these types of films that go for the jump scares and all of that, and some might say that the tongue-in-cheekness of this film is deliberate, but to those I would say, what's scary about that? So thanks very much for watching this review. If you've seen it, let me know what you thought down in the comments, and tell me how it compares to the original film and the book if you've seen and read them, because I haven't seen either, so I'd be interested to know what they changed. And as always, thanks very much for watching this video. I really do appreciate it. If you can, give it a like, and don't forget to share the lave. The ground is sour. Is it?